It's time for the spotlight now. We are hanging out today with author, playwright, and clinical psychologist Thabang Tlaka. Thabang Tlaka, welcome to the bridge.
Good morning. How are you?
We're good. We're good. Let's kick off with the conversation we're having off air, because I mean, it's very interesting. Let's just put that to bed before we get into what it is that you're about.
Yes.
The sex talk around men, right? You and Thabang were seeming to be progressive on it.
Yeah.
What were you guys
We were
about?
basically talking about how a lot of times men become so defensive when it comes to having this discussion, and how they always know what works, in inverted commas. They think they know what works, because it's more of a just being also it's about the ego.
It is
mostly.
about the ego. You know what I like about what you're saying, Lerato? They think they know what works. I found this a lot in men, and not just only in bed, right? And I love the fact that you're a clinical psychologist, because now we can break down mental blockages and emotional blockages, right? What is it about men that makes them think that they know what women want and they make decisions sexually and otherwise for women? Case in point, also that Ask a Man, where that Anonza, her husband decided on her behalf to involve her in a polygamous marriage without her
Consent.
Without her consent. But now that is a different topic altogether. Let's keep it at the bedroom.
Yeah. Okay, so a lot of the times I think the discussion goes, it's an us and them thing, but I want to say it's an us thing. It's both men and women.
It's a we thing.
It's a we thing. And so, in fact, in relationships, to get what you want, you need to you have to almost help the other person when the other person gets what they want, you get what you need. So for men, when it comes to sex, it's an event, and that's partly wiring, even like how men get turned on. It's so quick. It's not the same as women. And then the other thing is, as I was mentioning earlier, it's socialization, the way we are socialized. So men are generally socialized to perform, to be good enough. We want to be good enough in the boardroom, good enough on the sports field. We can't score. Even after sex, men would ask, so how was it? It's like somebody's keeping some sort of
like you're keeping a scorebook.
Yeah.
Like, seriously?
Yes, that has to do with just the wiring, and that's something that we have to change. And if we can't just understand that for sex for men and women is slightly different. Even hormonally is a bit different when we talk about testosterone and estrogen.
Yeah.
So some of those things we have to talk to each other about. So I think what I would say is we all need to learn. Nobody is born good at anything, as you were mentioning. So we all need to learn, and we need to have a conversation about what works. And the principle would be how do I make you happy? How do you work? And once we start there, then we'll have a better way.
Without being offended, because one thing I learned, I've realized a lot of times with the gentlemen is that, and not all, by the way, is that when you have conversations, especially about sex, it's almost like you can never win with them, because society has made them believe that it's always them, they're always right. But how are you going to learn if you don't ask me what works for me or what I like? And also without even comparing, because they'll say things like, oh no, it worked when I did it in the past. But also don't forget that we all are different. We are different beings. We have different bodies. What worked for someone else might not necessarily work on me. So how about we have a mature conversation about how we can move forward and both be satisfied without anyone being offended.
Yeah, I wanted to say actually part of it, why we have a blockage or where we get stuck is that, I think there's a book, the title is Everybody Lies. And the author wanted to actually title the book, How Large is My Penis? Because it's one of the most Googled
he should have titled that. I'm sure it escalated the sales furthermore.
Yeah, but what I wanted to get to is the reason that is, so it's a sensitive issue for guys. So every time, remember, when men are defensive, that's fear. That's not, I know, that's you're attacking me, so I need to dominate you a little bit. So, but that goes on to something deeper with I'm not attacking you as a person, but let's talk about how do we make this work. So I think when you just understand how we both function, I find that the conversation works a bit easier. We do it in therapy, and then we get somewhere because both of us are willing to learn.
Sure, it takes a lot of maturity.
He is a playwright and clinical psychologist. His name is Thabang Tlaka. He's under the spotlight today, 21 after 11, ... to be continued. It's a classic sound. It's a jam and a half. My gosh, it's called Englishman in New York, Sting, finally selected by our guest today, Thabang Tlaka, author, playwright, and clinical psychologist. What is it about the song?
I think it touches on something that I suppose a lot of us feel, and sometimes we feel as if we're a misfit in the world.
Can I tell you, this is so weird. As you said that, the one word in my mind was misfit.
Yeah. So I mean, I think for a huge part of my life, I thought I don't fit in. I thought I was a strange guy because I thought a little bit different, had different ideas. And when I heard this song, it kind of just resonated because I was just this young guy with just a different sort of
different what
thought
exactly?
life.
Can you elaborate a bit more?
I'll give you a specific example. I mean, even in varsity, when we used to date, if we're taking it to relationships, when we used to date, when I would sit with the girls, and I wanted to be, I suppose, just play around, if I can put it that way. And they didn't want that. They wanted to see me tomorrow for coffee, but they would play around with my friends because the things that I would talk about seemed a bit deeper, and I couldn't just be
I get it. Yeah, I know people like that. I know people like that. Yeah, I've met a couple of gentlemen like that. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
So I always felt as if there's something wrong with me. And when people talk, I see different angles of things, you know. And my friends used to tell me, "Why do you like being anti? Like, you always come up with a different angle." But then later, it was a beautiful thing for my work, for my writing. Then I've got unique views. So that's why the song resonates with me.
I'll ask you, let's start with clinical psychology.
Yes.
What attracted you to clinical psychology?
Human beings.
I think people that do psychology are like so twisted.
Yeah, there's actually a quote. It says the wounded healer heals best.
Yes.
So I actually wanted to do advertising. It was between advertising and psychology. And I used to watch a lot of Dr. Phil. Then I have an aunt who's a psychologist. And so between watching Dr. Phil, chatting with my aunt, I realized that I enjoy people. I really like mining the mind of a person. People are so fascinating. Like if you sit with a human being, I think people don't know how amazing they are. I just enjoyed that. I just enjoyed figuring out stuff, figuring out people, finding solutions to where people struggle. And I suppose partly because I emotionally, that whole misfit thing, I always was trying to discover myself. So in trying to find myself, then I found something that helped me find someone else. So our issues actually become purpose in a sense.
Yeah. Did you always think or feel like you had solutions to those problems?
I engage in reflection. When you started your show, you had I think it was a segment about what would you do today. What do you? There's a title that you use. Which
if today was your last day, what exactly would you do?
You use to describe that. So, but in any case, it's about just checking in, reflecting. I was always that kind of
daily
person. Audit. Auditing your life.
Taking stock.
I did just like naturally. I used to write a little poetry, and I found every time I had an issue and I wrote about it, at the end of whatever I wrote, I had resolved it. So
isn't that just the best feeling?
Yes. So I think everything just grew from then, that I wasn't afraid to meet a challenge. Then I thought every time you meet a challenge and you pay attention to it, you always find that you come out stronger with it.
Yes.
Be it business, be it relationships, whatever you're struggling with. We say when you're resilient, it's being able to grow in front of a problem.
Yes.
So when you do that, then I found that's what worked.
I think there's a beautiful vulnerability with what you said in the beginning when asked what attracted you to psychology, about how people don't know how great they are.
Yes.
It's almost like watching a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Who's not aware of her beauty and is just going around living her life gracefully. Some do gracefully live their lives not knowing how powerful they are, and then some are self-destructive in that ignorance of self-power.
True.
You know? Where psychology is concerned, what was the entry moment into literature, into saying, I need to write my thoughts? And in your journey, from before, I think you are your purpose before your purpose chooses you. You live it.
Yes.
And then you literally walk into it and you grow into it. So en route becoming an author.
Yeah.
Was there a time in your life that was a determining moment to say, one day I'm going to write a book?
In fact, I mean, earlier you were talking. I was listening to the show, so when I was coming,
isn't it just such a cool show?
I thought, this is so weird, like because it's like you're in my mind, you know. And you were talking about family, like what it's family. So family. So I grew up in a family where I felt a lot of feelings were in the air, and then I tried to pen them. So I've always written. I've always wrote pieces and tried to reflect about my emotions. And so I started writing before I even became a psychologist. So I started, in fact, documenting. So pieces were just, poetry was documenting different parts of my life. So I've always done that, and it just merged beautifully into psychology. Then I found that a lot of psychologists actually do that. They usually engage, they reflect about life and people.
Is it a psychological outlet for you?
Yeah, it was.
Because you consume so much of the hurt on the other side.
Yes.
Does it help you process your own?
Definitely, because otherwise I'd have a problem. So it helps me process, because I can create these worlds that are not there. So initially it was an emotional thing, but now it's emotion mixed with discipline, because I feel but then I say I have to exercise the writing. Yeah.
Thabang, a lot of people actually don't know, as a psychologist, you also need to see someone professionally very often.
Yeah, you need to check in, so it helps. I mean, when we train, I don't do it as often
as you used
as I used to, but I've got colleagues. I mean, I've got a colleague. We share notes. I mean,
so you have to be an open book, basically. Yeah, be open for conversation, particularly conversation about self, either with colleagues or other people.
Yes, because you can't take people where you haven't been.
That's true.
People will threaten you, so you have to be very open. So you can handle anyone. So you need to be very centered.
Can they burden you as well?
They can if you're not careful. I mean, there are some stories you can't handle. So, but even in our trainings, I did see psychologists, and because it's important to know what it's like to sit on the other chair, to have somebody pry into your business, to be a puddle of tears, and to actually understand your own issues, because they say you are the gift, you are, so you need to sharpen it. So when you understand yourself, it's very easy to work with other people.
Are you comfortable talking about the suicide rate amidst psychologists? I worry about that.
Yes.
How many psychologists we lose to suicide in a year when the healer harms themselves and harms the ones around them? To what do we owe that?
So I'm not sure of the stats, but what we describe is what they call secondary trauma. So when you keep on listening to stories, painful stories, so you get traumatized. So that's what we do. That's what you get with police officers. You get those with firemen and people who do that kind of work. So when you work with very traumatic situations, they can traumatize yourself. That's why it's very important, if you are working with people or doing very hectic things, to take care of yourself. We grow when we take care of ourselves. Take holidays. Find people that you can talk to. So just grow from there.
Nurturing the spirit also has a role in all of this.
Definitely.
Speaking of spirit, we're going to go straight to Questa, a song selected by him as well. He's in the studio. You can post tweets and we will read them. If you have questions, we will ask them. This is Spirit Questa. You're listening to The Bridge. Interesting conversations off air. Questa, Spirit. You chose this one because I feel like, you know what, I should not even be asking you that. It's rhetorical why you chose this one.
I mean, it's a wonderful song. It's an amazing song, and it reminds me of my kid brother. Because when he tries to encourage me, he says, "Hey, brother, just keep the spirit, you know." So when the song came out, I thought of my brother, but just the song itself just does something to you. So it motivates me a lot. I enjoy the song. So. Well done, Questa.
Well, he's still in studio. He's not going anywhere. Author, playwright, and clinical psychologist Thabang Tlaka. Thabang Tlaka, as we've mentioned, clinical psychologist who is registered with the Health Professions Council of South Africa. Thabang has deep and wide experience that includes work for community clinics, a hospital, a university, and the Defence Force, the SANDF. And Thabang has also worked with individuals, families, and diverse groups of people in various provinces across South Africa. He holds a master's degree in clinical psychology from the University of Pretoria. He was a Mandela Rhodes Scholar in 2008 and a Brightest Young Mind Delegate in 2009. Have I said enough? I'll say one last thing. He is pursuing a PhD researching how men talk to other men about divorce. He's not going anywhere. We'll be right back with Thabang Tlaka. It is 11:41. You're listening to The Bridge. It's spotlight time on this inspirational, motivational Wednesday. Let's take a look at the headlines with Mel before we move on.
Yeah, service delivery protest, definitely the story of the day. You know, we've got the ANC Veterans League in the Northwest Province tackling the protests that were happening there, calling for the resignation of the Premier. Western Cape, service delivery protest, as well as now Ndwedwe, north of Durban. So I'll bring you the latest on all those stories. And then also out of Nigeria, they're banning the production and importing of cough syrups that contain codeine. You know, codeine, of course, is highly addictive.
Yes.
And apparently there's a big
that
black
Lil
market.
Wayne thing.
That's scissor.
Yes, Scissorb.
That's right.
We
Big black
see you
markets.
guys. We see you.
So I'll tell you about that at 12.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that. I really like that. I'm looking forward to that story. On the spotlight today, thank you very much, Mel. She's back again, top of the hour, 12. Let's continue. Lerato, you took us down memory lane. So we once did a show, and I'd like you to tell the story. And this is inspired by the fact that Thabang Tlaka, our guest today on the spotlight, author, playwright, and clinical psychologist, is he's pursuing and doing research. What is it? You're pursuing a PhD and researching how men talk to other men about divorce.
Yeah, and we were talking about how we did there was a segment that we did on the show where we were talking to men that have gone through a divorce or are going through a divorce, and it was shocking how men actually struggle with regards to dealing with the divorce. And we always have, there's this whole misconception that men can actually, are okay. They handle it a bit better than women do.
Yeah, so, I mean, we have, it's a society that has a lot of toxic masculinity. So when you grow
Say that again. Please repeat. Society that has, hold on, kill the music. Society that has, grab a pen, piece of paper, write it down.
Toxic masculinity.
Society that has a lot of toxic masculinity. Please break that down. I get it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way we socialize our boys, I mean, a little boy grows up, let's say there's a boy and a girl in the house. The girl will be taught how to help, how to make tea, how to be sociable, how to talk, all those things. But the boy is told to go out and be strong. If they smack him on the field, he shouldn't cry. He should be a man. He should be strong.
Toxic masculinity.
So we don't have a range of emotions. So guys don't know what to do. So when you're upset, what do I do? Do I stay with you? Do I walk away? Do I drink? Do I work? Do I become promiscuous? So we struggle to deal with stuff. And so when men then are they have problems or issues or go through a divorce, what we are finding is that sometimes they struggle to talk about it because that hasn't been exercised, or even the society hasn't almost made it okay for men to talk about the things that are hurting them without looking weak. So those are some of the things that are coming out.
That's one thing I've also realized, because I'm surrounded by so many men, especially with the kind of work that I do. And I can almost tell when something is bothering maybe a friend of mine. And when you raise it, it's almost like they become so uncomfortable, or they turn it into a joke. But you can see it's not funny, but it's funny because that's how they find comfort, or that's how they deal with it.
Yes.
Shoo.
Let's talk about the books that you've written. I see Lerato's holding a bunch of them there. There's 3 books that you've written. Can I tell you?
Yeah.
I don't know you from a bar of soap. I am your fan. I want to read what you have penned between 2 covers. Because judging from what you are just speaking right now, you have clarity. You're not mincing any thought processes and emotional processes. You've got clarity.
Yeah.
You are one that can be trusted.
Yeah. No, thank you for the compliment. So I've written 3 books so far.
Corrupting Virgins?
Yeah. So
grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, write it down, open your notebook.
I want you to take us through all of them. So let's speak about the first one, Corrupting Virgins.
But the first book I wrote was The Taxi Philosopher.
Okay, let's speak about that one.
The Taxi Philosopher.
It's about a psychologist who travels in taxis.
Who titles your books for you?
Myself. It's the poet, the poet in me, I suppose.
Incredible.
So it's about a psychologist who travels in taxis, he sees stories, and he deals with the stuff. So, but in a sense, I was just trying to help people through stories to deal with stuff. Secondly, it's called Corrupting Virgins. This book was actually inspired by a young lady. She came because she was being bullied at school, and they had said that, she needs to get some guy experience. But that was the issue. They were bullying her for, that she's talking a little bit of smack because she doesn't know what it's like to be
with
a man.
that guy.
So I write there to warn, I suppose, women about guys who are like me in first year.
Yeah.
Because we used to go, these first year girls, they coming here, and you must make sure, because after 6 months they get a bit wiser. So these are the
Get
things.
them while they're still fresh.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you grow up and you think about that.
Toxic masculinity.
So that's a book to just help people, but it's fun, it's very creative. I think one day it could be a good movie.
I think all 2 of them so far. Let's hear the last one.
Selfie of the Soul.
Selfie of the Soul. Is
You're so Jim Carrey. The phase he's in right now in his life is so deep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's nice.
it's a poetry book. It's got 40 poems in it. But just touching on different themes about life and living and love and God.
Who are you when nobody's looking?
Yes.
You.
I speak of that so much.
Yeah.
Mind, spirit, culture, right?
Yes.
Culture for me, not just limited to how you were raised and your tribal group that you belong to,
Yes.
but your personal culture when you have no audience, your personal habits.
Definitely.
When you don't have an audience, what are the things you do? Because they will speak of the magnitude of applause you will get in front of an audience. So at the end of the day, it always shows. It always comes out. It always shows. What you do on your own with no audience,
Yes.
trust me, buddy, we're going to see it.
Definitely.
The face never lies, and the skin never lies. You never lie. Your character never lies.
Yeah. I think you should write a foreword for my book. I just finished
I
the
would
book.
love
It's-
to.
It's called Focus and Flourish.
I would love to.
And it's the one I just completed now. It's still a manuscript. And what I'm trying to say is that our habits, what we do when nobody's looking, will actually come to bear. At
Yes.
some point, what you are doing, the brain works that way.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you rehearse, whatever is in your subconscious, will manifest when the moment comes. So if you want to thrive and succeed and flourish in life, make sure that when you're in private, you are doing the things that if you were found doing, that would be a wonderful experience.
Of course,
So
yeah.
train yourself when people are not looking. Think of the values, what you stand for, what you want to die for and live for. When those things are very clear, then it just manifest themselves. So we think about it, and it comes to light when that moment comes.
Walk
Okay.
naked.
And the
Walk
CD?
naked.
And it's, so that's just the audio book of the
yes.
Taxi Philosophy, because we don't
I
have time.
want to be your friend. I think I do. I want to meet your wife. I want to meet your kids if you have any. I want to have conversations with you. I literally, can I tell you something? I personally feel this was not enough.
Yeah, no,
This was not enough. I'd love to write that forward.
So the 3 books are out,
so
right?
The 3 books
Still out, yeah.
They're still out. So one can get them. I know there was some at exclusive. Otherwise, one can just go to my website, www.thabangtlaka.co.za, and you'll get all the information you need from there.
And the
Okay.
books are Corrupting Virgins,
The
Taxi Philosopher, and Selfie of the Soul.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant stuff. How do people interact with you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter, Thabang Tlaka, just my name. On Instagram, the same Thabang Tlaka. I've got a Facebook page, Thabang Tlaka Clinical Psychologist. I'd paused them for now because I wanted to focus and flourish. So I paused to finish a book, and I did,
Which is a good thing, yeah.
So I'll be back soon.
Are
Okay.
your books in
Great.
any of the main retail bookstores?
Yeah, he just said
I know one.
some exclusive.
Yeah, some exclusive books. So
I
I'm not sure
missed
now because
that.
they're a bit dated. So yeah,
But more deets on the website, right?
more details on the website.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. This was absolutely incredible. Conversations that are literally right up my alley. If you want to get me to like light up in my soul, speak about the human mind, speak about why people do the things they do from a psychological perspective, you've got me. Thabang Tlaka, thank you so much. He is an author, playwright, and clinical psychologist. I hope you took something from him. Hope you enjoyed.